We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It's welcome to Talking Turfs, Melly Barnes. How are you, mate?
I am very well, mate. Hope you are too, and everybody listening is as well.
Yeah, all good to see you, mate. And yeah, bad week, I guess, for both Newcastle and Manchester United this week with respective exits from the Champions League. Let's talk Manchester United first. Did you see that coming at the start of this campaign, an early exit, not just from the Champions League, but from Europe as a whole?
No, not when the group came out. I thought, well, it'll be us and Bayern nailed on, but Copenhagen deservedly have got their place in the last 16, mate. They just perform, you know. They play football, and rightfully they're through. I'm pleased there wasn't Galatasaray for the rest of the clubs in there, because I just didn't like Galatasaray, to be honest with you, and everything that they stand for. And so I am pleased little Copenhagen's getting through. It's probably done us a favour going out, mate, as it has used. Realistically, because I didn't think Nevo were, well, we probably are good enough for our best 11, but it's getting the best 11 in there to compete and play, you know. But it's been a blessing in disguise for Manchester United to gone out. They're really underperforming this year. If I can just try and keep it like nice and polite, really, to be honest with you, because there's a lot more I want to say about them. But it's an absolute blessing in disguise, Steve, to be honest, mate.
I mean, you've got to get things right on the pitch, but you've also got to get things right off the pitch. There still seems to be murmurings of discontent. You know, we can't pick up a newspaper or go online now without seeing something negative about Manchester United. And, you know, Ten Hag increasingly under pressure, especially with this weekend's game against one of your biggest rivals.
Aye, and it's, to be honest with you, mate, if you've seen my injury list for this weekend, it's there's about 12 or 13 top players out and not going down. I'm personally not going down this weekend, not for any other reason apart from I only got one ticket, and I like to go with me mate, you know. It's not the same, so I didn't fancy going down there on my own. And to be honest with you, mate, I've not lost a bit of heart, because, you know, we'll follow the boys, win, lose or draw. But like, I put a tweet out, I don't know if you've seen it, like the other night, 15-hour days for us. I've done that 3 times in a week. We're leaving at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're not getting home till 5 o'clock in the morning. Then I'm up at work at 7 o'clock, and it's costing 200 quid a game. On top of what you're doing to your body, and these lots cannot put a 90 minutes, because you see how hard it is. Yeah, everybody tries their best for 38 games to get into that top 4, to get into the Champions League, and these lot had 90 minutes to win a game. Didn't matter in the end, because we wouldn't have went through, but as far as they were aware, they had 90 minutes of football to give everything to stay in the Champions League, what they've worked so hard for last year to get into. And they had one shot on target. One shot, and it's just totally unacceptable.
Okay, let's look at Newcastle. Obviously, the group of death we were in, not many people expected Newcastle to progress. It turns out they were right, but we had some magical moments back in the Champions League for the first time in over 20 years. We started off with a 0-0 away to AC Milan, which, to be fair, we were lucky to come away with a point. But then our PSG game, which is the highlight of this visit to the Champions League for Newcastle, was a huge success. A 4-1 win against Mbappe and everything else that comes with PSG. Dortmund, I think we learned a lesson, a valuable lesson about European football and Champions League football at the top level from a team that qualifies year in, year out, and certainly will be a threat to everyone in the last 16. Borussia Dortmund beating us home and away, which I think was the key turning point. PSG away, of course, for Newcastle was, shrouded in controversy with the penalty that was given. Had that not been given, things might have been slightly different. But then the home game against AC Milan, which, I felt Newcastle could have won and should have won, but, we didn't. And we find ourselves bottom of the group and out. Me personally, and I know it hasn't gone down well with some Newcastle fans, I'm delighted that we're not in Europa. And the reason being that, for me, isn't anything to do with Newcastle and the injury list, etc. I've never been a fan of teams dropping out of a competition and being given a reward of being put into another competition, because that's all about money. It's all about TV. It's all about the things that I, think have probably disturbed football, probably made football worse. If you're knocked out the Champions League, that should be it. You should move on. You've got to qualify again next year. Going into the Europa, I think, it's almost an insult to those teams that have qualified for the Europa off their own endeavours. And then suddenly, you're hit with a lot of, big teams coming in and gate crashing your party. I've never agreed with it. So the other side of it, of course, is Newcastle and Manchester United have got one thing in common at the moment, other than both being called United, and that is the injury list. And our injury list, although we've got a few players coming back, we are still struggling massively with squad depth. So to suddenly then have to go and play on a Thursday night, for me, on top of trying to maintain, a push for Europe in the league, and then, a big derby against Sunderland coming up, of course, in the new year. I just genuinely think that a drop into the Europa would have been a disaster for our season. I think we can regroup. I think we've got a big week coming up. We've got Fulham, of course, and then we play Chelsea away in the Carabao Cup, a game I would desperately love to win and get to another semi-final. And then obviously we can, hopefully make some kind of movement in the January window, as well as see some players come back and make a real push for a decent league finish again this season, and hopefully a Carabao Cup semi-final, which could take us back to Wembley. So for me, it's not a disaster. For me, it's something which we've learned from, it's something we've enjoyed, and it's something that we can use moving forward when we qualify for Europe again and say, right, okay, what did we learn last time? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? How can we improve? I'm not downhearted at all, mate. And I came out to St. James's Park after clapping the team off, and I shrugged my shoulders and went, "C'est la vie." That's it. We move on now, and we will move on. The club now has to concentrate on what is important, and that is trying to win a trophy. For me, get a trophy in the bag. Then you can say you're the achievers. You're not the wannabes. You're not the entertainers. You become the achievers. And you can build on that. That's my view on Newcastle's exit.
I think you're right, mate. On the whole, it would have been an absolute nightmare dropping into that Europa League. To be honest with you, you're probably right as well by saying that it's unfair on the teams that are already in there. Because you could end up with a Barcelona or a Real Madrid, or they've had a poor Champions League, and then they've all automatically become the favourites. And prior to that, you were. You might have been nailed on favourites to win it, and then they drop in. So it probably is wrong. You're getting rewarded for being poor in a competition that you qualified for. That's probably the equivalent of getting knocked out the FA Cup and landing the Carabao Cup, let's say. But it's definitely a blessing, and it's definitely a learning curve. Because if you're honest with yourselves, you're probably 3 or 4 years ahead of where you expect it to be. So, like, luckily for yous, because it is lucky for yous that you got the Champions League this year and you've experienced it, and then players there will be like, they will want the Champions League next year again because of that. So you've got a squad there of players who knows what it tastes like and how to play in the Champions League. So they've got that experience, which was totally, like it'll prove really valuable for you next season if you land in it again. But I think the lesson that you've learned is that you've got to have a big squad. Manchester United have got quite a big squad, and they're still really, really they suffered because if you've got 4 or 5 and then you get like a red card or whatever, the 5 in reserve aren't quite good enough. So you've got to recruit properly, which is what you're doing. It'll be interesting. It's a shame for me that for you that the Carabao Cup is coming before the January transfer window, because I think he's been. I don't. Did you make a substitution last night? I was out last night.
Yeah,
so I was keeping it.
we I think they made 5, possibly 6. Newcastle made 3.
Aye. So I think that's probably like the first 3 substitutions you've made in 4 games. Like them players, them starting 11. As much as I say they should be playing 7 days a week for the money that they're getting, realistically at the top level, when you're playing in the Champions League and the Premier League and you're travelling away and you're travelling home, the fatigue is gonna set in to them starting 11. But that's all you have got at the minute. That's all you have got, and I just think with Fulham coming up, is it away?
Fulham at home.
Fulham at home, Chelsea away. I don't know. I think it's going to come too soon for you because Chelsea are totally unpredictable. They're scoring goals. And at the minute, Newcastle are conceding goals. So they will score. Chelsea will score. It's just whether or not you've got enough there to outscore them. Because Isak, for me, he's more of a winger. And that's what you're missing as a Alan Shearer or Andy Cole or something like that, And I don't know, mate. I just think it's going to be a step too far for you.
I've got to be honest. I thought, watching that game on Wednesday night, I felt that our fortunes changed when they took Gordon off. Gordon's been our best player this season. I think there's no doubt about it. One of our very best. And they took Trippier off. Now Trippier won't play on Saturday against Fulham because he's hit the yellow card tariff, so he serves a 1-match suspension. So they took him off. They brought Dan Burn on, who's fit, and they put Livramento into right back. Of course, that's his natural position. But I felt when you had Burn and Isak on the left hand side, I felt it probably lacked something. I think it made us weaker. Callum Wilson, for me again, still doesn't look 100% fit. He played more or less the full 90 minutes against Milan. So for me, I've got to be honest. I think Isak's better through the middle rather than up. On the left hand side. I think our strongest formation is with Gordon on the left, with Isak up front. I prefer to see Wilson come on as a substitute in those last 20 minutes, and maybe he's come up with a goal, which is what served us well at the start of the season. But it's interesting. It's an interesting debate. But yeah, I couldn't see Isak regularly holding down the left hand side. I generally couldn't. I just don't think that I think he's wasted there. I think he's wasted there. I think he's when he made that wonderful run against Everton, in that first season, and cut down the byline, crossed it in, and Murphy scored. I think it was great. It was wonderful to watch, but I just don't think he's got that kind of Eddie Howe work rate up and down, where Anthony Gordon has, and he's certainly been our best player this season for me.
I just think Almiron is very hit and missy, mate. He's he's all right, but he's probably a squad player at best. Gordon is a winger. I'd have Isak on the wing, and I would definitely recruit 2 good goal scorers. And and then I would have another couple of defenders in, and I think he'll do all right, because the backups will be there as well, experienced backups as well. So I mean, look, a lot more with Newcastle I do, but from an outsider's point of view, you need goals, and you need people who can set the goals up. That's a massive problem at Manchester United. We've got nobody who can put it in for Højlund. If Højlund's playing at Man City, he's on 15, 20 goals already this season. And so, as much as a good striker, you need people who can give him service. I think Gordon could do that, and I think Isaac, if he's given a run on the wing, he could do that because he's quick, he's confident, and he wants to beat players. And that's the problem nowadays with wingers. They don't want to beat players. They want to like run down the wing, stop, come back, play it back, make the run, and hopefully get put in behind. You want somebody who's willing to run with the ball, run at defenders, because as a defender, you hate that. You hate, when you're going to the team and you know that the winger is an attacking winger, you're in for a game. Defenders hate it. They don't like it. So you need somebody who's willing to do that. And I think with Isaac and Gordon, they are both willing to get at them and put them on the back foot. And then it's all about the service after that. But you need people in the middle who can put the ball away when it comes in, So, like you say, it's a learning curve. But Eddie Howe's doing it right, mate. He seems to be doing it right. Everybody expected you to go out and break FFP and the rest of it, but you haven't. You've got your Team United. I don't know how that's got something to do with that Dan Ashworth or something, because you reckon he's an absolute genius at that. I mean, you just got to look at Brighton to realise how good he is as unity. So I mean, your foundations is built, and they're really strong, and if you can build on it, you're in for a successful campaign in the next few years. I just think Devin I cook it, Devin push for something that's, because ultimately, like, if you keep like doing what you're doing and cooking the 11 good players that you've got, and you got into Chelsea, and it's alright getting to the semi-final, and it'll be great for the club and stuff. But you won a final last year. You got in the Champions League this year. That could be classed as a trophy, although like a lot of people will disagree. For Newcastle to get into the Champions League was a massive achievement. You've had Milan, PSG, Dortmund, all at St James's Park. Nobody could have predicted that, man. 3 or 4 years ago, nobody in the world would have predicted that. But you have had it, you have done it, you have got the experience. Just, like, whatever happens against Chelsea happens, but it's still classed as a success. If you win or lose, like, if you win, you're in the semi-finals. If you lose, you've get into the quarter-finals of another cup. You've got the FA Cup to come. You've got the January transfer window. It's it's looking good. It's looking hopeful for you. So just steady away in it. Like, if you speak to Newcastle fans who are like 40 and older, they're all of the same kind of opinion. They're happy to be where they are, and they know that a trophy's going to come eventually now, because they've got the right ownership, they've got unity within the club. And eventually, you'll not be able to stop that. I mean, look at Manchester City. I mean, now they have allegedly broken a lot of rules to get where they are, but still, they're attracting good names because they've got, like, I was there the other week, and I went somewhere with my wife, and we passed the City ground, and they had like a bridge hour to the training ground, and they've just got everything sorted. And I think that's probably the next step at Newcastle United, mate. It's they potentially will move St James's, with St James's being council owned, and then they'll just build a massive complex around it. They'll just take over. They'll have the stadium, they'll have the training ground, they'll have like everything within a 5-mile radius, and it'll be amazing. And, like, I'm a North East lad, mate, and I support Manchester United. I'm a North East lad, so it'll be nice to see. It'll be nice to see when I'm driving into Newcastle and you see that, and like, people around the Britain will be envy of that, because that's one thing you can do with all this money that you've got, is build a super stadium and have a super training ground. Like, so that the potential's there. You are potentially a sleeping giant, but just steady away. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I mean, I think Newcastle's awake, certainly. The sleeping giant thing, I think, was certainly, true when, the takeover was on the horizon. But I think we're awake now. We just need to we need to learn how to walk before we run. That's the key. And I think, a lot of us had said Champions League, it's going to be tough, and maybe we've gone there a couple of seasons too much. Well, that's proved to be the point. But yeah, I think Newcastle's very much a club awakened now. They've just got to take their time. They've got to walk before they can run. The goalkeeping position is interesting because we've spoken about it on here before. Nick Pope now out for 4 months. Dubravka's come in, conceded 9 goals in 3 games. 3 at Everton, 4 at Spurs, 2 against AC Milan. Bit of ring rustiness, of course, but it's going to be the same for him or Karius, no matter who's between the sticks when you haven't played for so long. But you could also point to the fact that the injuries have meant that Newcastle aren't paying the team that they would have had out with Nick Pope. So it can be unfair to judge a goalkeeper. But from my perspective, the De Gea story won't go away. Another cryptic message on his social media this week about work would suggest that he's either keeping himself fit for a potential move, or he's maybe got a job on the horizon and he's going to step in. And lots of talk in the media, although no direct quotes attributed to him, that he is keen on a temporary move to Newcastle, which I guess would fill a particular problem and fill a particular gap that Newcastle have with Nick Pope being out, and also give him an opportunity to put himself back in the shop window at the top level to show people that he can still perform at the top level. So, by the sounds of it, the project would appeal to him. Do you think Newcastle would make the move, and do you think the move would be good for both him and for the club?
I think you'd be stupid to, mate. I mean, like, everybody's screaming out for him now because of what Onana's producing, but they've got small memories, that he was to blame for quite a few of obviously United's goals. But my son was a goalkeeper, and I always said to him, you shouldn't get downhearted because you are the last form of defence. They've got to get past 11 players before they get anywhere near you, and your chances of saving a shot are probably 1 in 10 because the goalposts are so big and you're only so big. So a striker who is paid foul, like me, not with my son, but in the Premier League and Champions League, a striker who was paid hundreds of thousands a week to find the back of the net should be finding the back of that net if he's given that chance. So, as a goalkeeper, I think they do get a lot of the blame, but ultimately, it should lie on the players in front as well because they've managed to get there. So, De Gea would probably be a bad move for me. If I was used, I would probably go for Aaron Ramsdale. He's out of favour at Arsenal. He's a decent keeper. He's a good lad, and he would buy into your project. He's just a good kid, He's like, he interacts with fans. He does quite a lot for charity at such a young age, and he's a good keeper. But David De Gea, like, he'll want 300 grand a week off you. That's why he's sitting without a contract at United. We did offer him a new contract, which he was unwilling to take. He's 32 or 33 now, and he makes a lot of mistakes. Do you need that on top of? He's a good shot stopper. I didn't get us wrong, but he's look, ultimately, if you're going back to Dubravka before he got dropped from Newcastle the first time round, like, he wasn't somebody that let goals in all the time, if I remember rightly. Like, he was quite consistent, and I think he only lost his pace in the squad because of Nick Pope coming in originally, didn't he? But he hadn't really done much wrong. So, look, he's come in at a time where you are lagged and your fatigue isn't very good, and he's probably come in at the worst time possible. It's not like he's on a good run and you're stopping like goals because you aren't, you weren't. Nick Pope got injured and you had 3 hard games off the trot, and he's conceded. But I think if you stick with him, he'll do all right, mate. He's not a bad keeper. Get to January, and if he's still making lots, like conceding lots of goals and stuff, then ultimately you are gonna go and looking for a new keeper. But I think you need to stay away from De Gea. Like, I think he's he's probably going to go now at the Saudi leagues. That's probably where he's going to be best off going, to be honest. The last payday before he eventually retires. Look, he's done us well for a lot of years. And I didn't wish him any kind of bad feeling, but from Newcastle's point of view, I think that's a step backwards. Like,
you wouldn't have him back at Manchester United then?
No, I think you've got to stick. If you remember to hear when he first come to United, he was getting a lot more grief than what an honour is. He couldn't hold the ball. Everybody was surrounding him on a corner because they knew that he wouldn't get it or he would drop it if he did come to them. And that was the thing back then when he first joined United, and Fergie persisted with him, and in the end it paid off. Absolutely cracking shot stopper. But he makes mistakes as a goalkeeper, and his distribution is really poor. He doesn't. He cannot find anybody. Like if everybody's wanting to play out from the back now, and which is why we bought an Honor, because you can say what you want, but an Honor's very confident on the ball, and he can find. Like he nearly had an assist last week with Garnacho. Like you put the ball through, Garnacho runs through, and he should score. And that's an assist for a keeper. It's not often you'll ever see that. So I think we need to stick with him, but he needs to learn the basics. And Honor needs to learn the basics. He's getting to where he has through flair. Like diving through the air. And the guy was in the Champions League final last year, man. Like he's not that bad. He's come to probably one of the hardest leagues in the world, and with a microscope on the team, so everything is like. I mean, look at Harry Maguire, mate. How many times have we been on here in the last few months and everybody was wanting him out? He's poor, he's this, he's that. He shouldn't be called up for England. Yet he comes back in, a proper professional, and he's undroppable, and he wins Player of the Month. It just goes to show you got to stick by them when they're bad times, and then be by them when they're good times as well. It's no good keep calling them out every time they make a mistake. Otherwise, where's that gonna get everybody? Even in day-to-day life, do you know what I mean? Like you've got to think of the positives, and I think an Honor will come good. David De Gea is not for Newcastle. I think you should just stick with Martin. I think he'll do is all right. But I do also, on that note, think you've got a very hard month coming up till you get out of December and into January. He's literally clinging onto the cliff here. And I tipped this a couple of weeks ago with you, Steve, on a private phone call. I said, I fear for Newcastle now. And I was watching you on Sunday against Spurs, and my little laddie come in and he goes, the Toon's going to win 2-0. I says, they're not. I says, they'll end up getting 3 out or 4 out here. You could just see it, Steve. You could actually physically see, watching the first 5-10 minutes, that, like, if Tottenham get a goal here, you looked vulnerable. And then that was it. It was bam, 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 and it was game hour, And that's the worry at the minute for you, is because you are literally worn out. You're literally worn out, mate. And I said, at the beginning of the season, you're gonna find it really tough because unexpectedly you did really well last season. You got in the Champions League. As well as the Premier League being so hard, you've now got another league which is equally as hard, on top of flights there, flights back, midweek games. You're playing away on a Tuesday, and then you come back on a Wednesday morning, and then the players are back in Wednesday afternoon for training. Thursday, you've got a game on the Saturday. It's slowly but surely, it either knacks them or they end up injured. And then what happens when you're fatigued, mate? You end up like frustration. So yellow cards start coming into play, red cards, and it's trying to manage all that. It's trying to manage it all while like trying to still be successful. So for me, if I was like you, Newcastle fans, I'll be thinking, right, look, forget about all the cups this year. We want to get into Europe next year. We want to get into Europe. Let's get to the summer. Let's be there or thereabouts, and let's get into Europe next year. And even if it's the Europa League that you end up in, you've done the Champions League this year. You're going into the Europa League against different teams. You're experiencing that, and you could do quite well. Thursdays, Sundays might work all right for you. Tuesday, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Fridays, and then Wednesday again. And it's proved too much. It's proved too much, and I'm thankful Although, like, you might be thinking, I'm just saying it because you beat us, but I'm quite thankful that we haven't got the Carabao Cup now. The FA Cup, we're going to play one game a week now, us lot. And that works absolutely brilliantly for me, mate. Absolutely, like, it's perfect because we haven't got the squad there. Then, and the players that are playing, they're not even turning up. So one game a week, 3 or 4 training sessions, and I think we'll end up doing all right. And I think we'll get into Europe, whether it's Europe or Champions League. But I think we'll do okay, and I think we'll have an FA Cup run as well because we haven't got the pressure of European football anymore or the Carabao Cup. It's the midweeks. You know what I mean, Steve? They're a nightmare if you're playing away, mate. They're an absolute nightmare. They just totally interfere with your schedule. But from your perspective, you want to win a trophy, and and if you're looking at it, you're thinking that's probably your best chance is the Carabao Cup now. With City out, United out, you're one of the biggest teams in there. So if you beat Chelsea, then there's no reason why you can't get on to win that. So I can see why you're hopeful, but you just look at your squad from an outsider's point of view, and you think these need like one game a week. They need one game a week. That's what they need.
Yeah, going to be interesting. We will see how that all pans out. Time for the ads.
Yeah.
A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website skipsandbins.com. Easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102. Go to the website mrvickies.co.uk or drop them an email info@mrvickies.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at thetuneuk.com. We've also got an event coming up next year. It's in January the 19th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. It's an evening with Nobby Solano. Tickets are available on Voucher for £20. Don't forget, Supermac and Gibbo do every pre-match at Louis Liquor Store. It's free entry, children welcome, and there is great food by Fed's Fried Chicken. They're usually on pre-match and sometimes post-match at Louis Liquor Store. Okay, welcome back to NUFC Matters. Here with Melly Barnes from Talking Turf. Just want to talk to you a little bit about Jason Cundy on TalkSport after the Champions League exit on Wednesday. He said that it's a failure and that Eddie Howe isn't the man to take Newcastle United to the next level. What's your thoughts on that, Melly?
Why, Steve, you know my thoughts on that. I've said it from the start. Is like you've just said, you're awake. Trying to find a good light here, man. You're awake now. But if you want to go on to that next level, unfortunately, Eddie Howe he isn't experienced at that. Will he get experience? Will he can he win something? Can he become like a great? Potentially, but will he be given that time now? I don't know, mate. I don't know actually, because your owners are quite good, aren't they? Like they're very, very supportive. They're very, very supportive of the fans, of the manager, of the players. The so, but I think he's right in what he's saying, mate. I think he is right what he's saying. He's Eddie Howe hasn't got the credentials to potentially take us to that next level, and I said that from the start. If you look at Manchester City, they went through quite a few successful managers as well. Like they won the Premier League. They were Mancini, but still in the end, like they've ended up with Pep Guardiola, who's I always say like Pep's cherry picked these clubs, hasn't he? Like you said, Barcelona, Bayern. He said the best clubs from every league, really. So he should be doing well with what he's got at his disposal. I would like to see Eddie succeed at Newcastle just because he's a nice kid. He seems like a nice lad, like he interacts with our fans, and I think that's underrated nowadays. And people say, well, it's not about interacting with the fans. We'll rather see the team doing well. But I disagree with that massively, because I think the gap between fan and club now is the biggest it's ever been. And ultimately, the club is nothing without the fans. So you need to interact with your fans, and you need to feel like you're part of the club. Which, by the way, like me personally, I don't feel like I'm part of Manchester United. I think I'm just there to make the numbers up, and that's how I feel personally. But I'll go on because I love Manchester United. But at Newcastle, it doesn't matter who you speak to. Like you're so loyal and so devoted that that's what Eddie brings as well. And you've had managers in the past where and owners where you've probably thought disconnected from the club. So I'd like to personally see him do okay, and be given the chance to potentially succeed and become one of their managers, because he's a nice guy. But as you know as well as I know, that you don't get anywhere being a nice guy nowadays. It's brutal, and it's a money game now. So if he's not doing it, I mean, mate, even gone as far. I mean, you were asking for Ten Hag out of a week. Like it was a question, and he's on paper he's doing better than what Eddie Howe is. Do you know what I mean? So come the end of December, if you lose to Fulham, you lose in Chelsea, they're gonna start. I'm not bored what you say. Some of your fan base, the younger ones, they're gonna start asking for Eddie out.
I've got to be honest, right? I said this last night, Wednesday night, sorry, when Newcastle were knocked out. There will be a ridiculous reaction, probably from fans who haven't been there, done it, got the T-shirt. That's what's going to happen. Some day trippers, potentially fans who've just come along in the last couple of years. Maybe that will happen. What I will say, and what I'll say now is that Manchester United are and have been a more successful team than Newcastle United have been. It's there. It's in the history books. You're judged on the trophies that you've won. We've both got a fantastic history. Prior to the 1950s, Newcastle were up there with the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, etc. for getting to cup finals. We had a really good record. We could classify ourselves as a really big club then, but we have been a sleeping giant. the reason that Ten Hag, for me, is probably more likely to get the sack this season or be moved on this season than Eddie Howe is because of that, because of your history. Your club expects a hell of a lot more, and your owners will expect a hell of a lot more. And Manchester United crashing out of the Champions League and not getting any European football, not even being in the Europa, is catastrophic, especially with the way that your club's been run, with taking loans out on a regular basis, the amount of debt that you carry. It's for me, I think, like I said right at the top of the program, all the negative headlines that are coming out of Manchester United, that's down to what the owners. A lot of it's down to the manager, because he's fallen out with players left, right, and centre. He's pulled a couple back in. He's pulled Maguire back in, who's now injured. He's pulled McTominay back in, who's now, on a regular basis putting in the performances. I think you said, on this channel, that he was capable of doing. You said he would be coming to Newcastle would be a good move for him, probably, and for us. But that's why I think Newcastle fans think that, especially on our platform, that probably Ten Hag's times is close to being up. And I think this game at the weekend, and let's move on to that, is a pivotal moment in your season and his career as Manchester United manager, because you go to Anfield this weekend, and if you come away with an embarrassing performance and you get beat, I don't see how we can survive this week.
Nah, mate, that's in reality, you're probably right, but it's wrong on so many levels. Like, Eric Ten Hag's having to deal. If you gone onto top earners at Manchester United on Google, right, and have a look, you've got Casemiro on 365 grand a week. Then you've got Varane on 335 grand, and then you've got Rashford, Martial, Sancho, Bruno, all making collectively over 2 million quid a week, right? Martial has had over £100 million in wages off this club, and he's given us 89 goals for that 100 odd million that he's getting. Not to mention all of his sponsors and stuff that he gets through Manchester United. It's not good enough. I mean, like the likes of Andy Cole, that were doing that in a season, man. This man's done that over 10 years. This is what Eric Ten Hag's dealing with. If you look at all the kids that Manchester United have coming through, who Eric is coaching and what he's renowned for, they're absolutely amazing, mate. Garnacho, Palestri, they're gone to Argentina and Uruguay, respectively, and they perform and they're assisting and they're scoring. You've got Manu coming through, who's an absolute genius on the ball. He's so laid back. It's nice to watch. Hannibal, and now he's aggressive and stuff, but he can play football. Hoyland, he's brought Hoyland in, and there's a lot of pressure on this 20-year-old kid because we haven't got anybody else who'll score. All them other six that I've just mentioned, Martial and Rashford, who should be scoring, who should be performing for that kind of money. That's his hands is tied. Like he wanted Frankie de Jong. He would have made an absolute blinding difference to Manchester United. Like we had Jude Bellingham in the car park at one point in the career, and the Glazers wouldn't buy him. We had Haaland for 5 million, they wouldn't buy him. They're making catastrophic mistakes, and it's always falling on the manager's head, and it cannot be allowed to continue. It's not fair. We need to stick with Eric Ten Hag. I'm expecting the plummeting this weekend, and if you ask 90% of United fans, they'll say the same. Nobody's expecting it to go on there with the squad that we've got and the form that we're in to get anything from that game, and it's totally unfair that it's going to land on Eric Ten Hag's head. Like Jadon Sancho, you give Jadon Sancho 3 months off. 3 months off. Let's work that out. 3, 6, 9, 12. So that's 3.6 million that man was paid for 3 months, as well as getting treatment to help him sort his head out. And what does he do? He comes back and he keeps being late for training. You're getting 300 grand a week and you're late for bloody training. People working normal, everyday jobs, if they're late, 2 or 3 times off the road, they're getting sacked. And these buggers are only making 800 quid a week. And then you've got these overpaid, spoiled brats not turning up for training because he hasn't even got the sense to change his name on his PlayStation to something random. He plays under Sancho at 10 till 3 o'clock in the morning, mate. Like, this is what he's dealing with. He's, like you had Ronaldo when he got there, upset in the dressing room. He got rid of him. Thought he was big on the club. He got rid of him. When Fergie did this, he was a legend. When Eric Ten Hag's trying to do this, he's a nutcase. That all that being said, I disagree with the substitutions that he makes, like in the lineup changes. He came up to Newcastle and he changed Hoyland and he put Martial up top straight away. If you're Eddie Howe, you seen the documentary, like he does his homework. As soon as he's seen that lineup and he's seen Anthony Martial, he's went, right, look, scrap what I just said. We're gonna play out from the back because Hoyland isn't playing. And allowing you to play out from the back, give that Livramento that bit space to start attacking my wings, and you absolutely murdered it. That was on one decision made. Because if Hoyland is starting that game, he's not going to be wanting to play out the back as much because he knows that there's going to be ultimate pressure from the minute the keeper kicks the ball because he will not stop until you play that forward. That's his game. That's Hoyland's game. But putting Martial there, he's a mannequin. He's a mannequin, and every manager in the Premier League knows it, and they know how he plays. So he's trying to get rid of these players. Nobody wants them, man. Nobody wants them. Martial was on the market. We sent him off to Sevilla. He couldn't get a game for Sevilla. He's exactly the same there. They didn't even want him for like a drop down price. Nobody wants him. The wages is far too much. This is where we've gone wrong, and this is where both us and yous could potentially learn something, bring the kids through. Like I was in the seats, and I where I sit at Manchester United. Like I'm not far from like the directors and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And let's say they're the prawn sandwich brigade, right? But I'm not part of it. And one of the guys, like it was quite a few left, and one of the fans had like walked down, and he's probably what 10, 15 meters away from Eric Ten Hag, and he's screaming at him. He's screaming at him, saying, "Eric, play the kids, man. Play the kids." And that's what you've got to do. We cannot do any worse. But these kids who have been brought up through Manchester United's youth system, they're United through and through. They'll come on and they'll give 100%. Granted, they might not have the experience and they might get caught out and they might get beat, but they're getting beat anyway. So just give them the chance. And that's what you've got to do. That's what you've got to do in this month of December. You've got to bring some kids through from the youth academy. Give them that chance now because your current starting 11, mate, is they're struggling, and now's the time to give them that chance. I believe, anyway.
Well, they've certainly given Lewis Miley a chance, and he's stolen it with both fingers.
Exactly.
Both
That's
hands.
what you're getting.
He's been superb. You know what I mean? He's done absolutely brilliantly, and he's now officially played more games in Europe than Sunderland. So there's an interesting stat. Just want to talk about Everton because I know you fly the flag for these the blue side of Merseyside. The news coming out of the Premier League this week potentially was that they may well be going to drag this takeover on. Newcastle, of course, victims of this when the PIF were being looked at, and they were looking for separation between PIF and the Saudi country itself. But there seems to be a huge delay on the potential takeover by 777 partners. And this could lead to massive problems for Everton because if they feel that the takeover is not going to go through, this could see 777 partners pull out, which in turn would mean that they would not continue to put money into the club, which in turn could lead to administration and further points deduction. So not looking good for Everton, is it?
No, it's not. It's but they're a proper like English club, aren't they, mate? Everton, like you put them in the top 10 of like always been there. So I would hate to see that happen. To be fair, like it's not, but these things happen. When money's involved in anything, and doesn't matter what it is, day-to-day life, professional clubs, whatever. When money's involved, it's the root of all evil, mate. It's spoiling the game. really is spoiling the game. It would be a devastating day for the Premier League if that happened to Everton. I wouldn't like to see that happen. Although, like, we do have good banter with them. Still, you don't want to see that day.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, for me, you know, the clubs need to be punished for crimes they commit, and you know, if it's going to be Everton, then it needs to be, you know, other teams as well. If they've breached, you know, any particular rule break, then they need to be punished. So, like we said on the previous shows, we'll wait and see what happens with those other teams that have been accused, the likes of Chelsea and Manchester City. You know, whose cases don't seem any near the forefront. But we'll see what happens with them. Just want to look at the top of the table. Liverpool currently top going into this weekend's fixtures. Of course, play Manchester United. Arsenal's a point off in second place. Aston Villa, third place now, 35 points. Are they a title contender?
Well, you've got to even they're there on merit, they're not there on luck. I mean, if you went off the first game of the season, you'd think they were going to be relegation material. But Alex Ferguson tipped it, didn't he? And nobody could believe him that what he was saying, because Hughes had just hammered them 5-1. But he said, like, he couldn't believe the scoreline, and he thinks that they'll do all right, and he's been proved right. He's they're doing well. Unai Emery's got them playing well, and they're there on merit, mate. You know, like that. You know, they're playing football, and they've just kind of like quietly just gone about their business, and they're sitting there in third place. You know, and they've deservedly beat Arsenal at the weekend there, or last weekend. It was. You've got to fear them, haven't you? I mean, we've got them on Boxing Day, depending on how it goes in the next few games. You know, it'll be a tough game for them. I don't think anybody wants to play them at the minute, so they've got to be up there. You always revert back to Leicester winning the Premier League, so it's possible, isn't it? And that's the best thing about the Premier League, mate. Like, it's like at the beginning of the season, I said, like, I've got a feeling this is going to be the best Premier League that there's ever been. And so far, mate, it's been like that. Anybody is beating anybody. I mean, both me and you said we can't see Luton picking up any points. They've played like all the top teams in the last 6 weeks. And granted, they might only have 1 or 2 points out of it, but they've run them close, like.
Is the gap between the Championship and the Premiership getting wider? Because at the moment, Sheffield United, Burnley, and Luton Town, you know, are holding those bottom 3 places. Potentially, you know, in the Championship, we could see at least 2 of the 3 that went down come straight back up because of the current league standings. Is the gap becoming too big, do you think?
It is, it is. It's massive, isn't it? And it's there for everybody to see every year. You know, that you might get one every now and then that'll surprise you. The likes of, you know, when Burnley came up, and then they did quite well. But normally you can bank on the ones that come up going back down. You know, it's like, and once you slip out the Premier League, you know, it's hard to get back into it. You know, unless you know, well, Newcastle did it. But it's not the easiest job. The Championship, like, I remember, I'm sure it was Harry Redknapp said, like, he looks, you know, when the Championship was kicking off the week before the Premier League, he would, like, if he was in the Premier League, he would, like, have a sigh of relief that he wasn't kicking off. He says, because that Championship is grueling. It's grueling, you know. It's like, it's a proper league, whereas our league now has become a flair league, and it's ruled by VAR and stoppages, and you're probably playing, well, I know they're adding time on now, but, you know, like, everybody that's taking that time on throw-ins and goal kicks and stuff like that. In reality, if you actually added all that time on, you would probably be playing 120 minutes a game, because it's at least 30 minutes of a game is wasted by either somebody like pretend to be a fairy, or taking that time on a throw-in or a goal kick. It's become, it's a points game, but the points mean so much in money to the owners that people are scared to lose, and referees are scared to get a decision wrong, so they're taking ages and ages in case they get it wrong, and then they're up, you know, like they've got a case against them. But we've done that. The clubs have done that. We've become like a super league within the Premier League, haven't we? We're like, it's every decision is scrutinised. You know, like some of the handballs you've seen this season, Steve, man, back in the day, like handball was, you know, like if you're defending, somebody takes a shot and you stick your hand out
Yeah.
to purposely like put your hand there to stop it, give yourself an extra yard of your body. Nowadays, like the ball's getting blasted off somebody's chest and it's falling on their hand and they're giving a penalty. Mental, man. Absolutely mental. The game before that we love has been absolutely ruined, and like there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
You know, like do you watch this Scottish League or not?
Occasionally, mate. Occasionally, yeah.
That's like what it used to be like back in the day. For you know, like
it is.
the Premier League, they are still like very fully committed. Their challenges, the refs. It's a good league to watch. To be fair, mate. Another standard's pretty. Another standard's pretty. Well, poor. Yeah, it is. It is poor, but that they're not ruined by money. We are.
Yeah.
We are. Like I was just saying the other day, Manchester United had all our success, mate, from back in the day from poaching clubs. You know, like we took Berbatov off Tottenham, we took Van Persie off Arsenal, Cole off Hughes. If there was a good player in the Premier League back in the day, we would go in and we would get them because we had that power and we had the success through it because they were Premier League proven players. Now clubs are looking, like they're seeing a bit flair in the World Cup or in the Liga or the Portuguese league, and they think that it'll be all right in the Premier League, and it's not. They're coming over here and they're rolling about the ground and they're looking for free kicks rather than like Anthony's a perfect example. I was watching him the other day. There was two defenders at left back. He's running down the right wing, and for the first time all season, he tries to beat them, puts the ball through the middle of them, and granted he is fouled, but he guns down for the foul. If he jumps through them, he's through on goal, but he doesn't. He guns down for the foul, and everybody around us standing up and they're going, "Oh, where?" And I thought, wow, like, what? Can you not see that he was through on goal? Why are you applauding a man wanting a foul?
Yeah.
Wanting a foul on the edge of the box. Going for the goal, man. But it's not just him, it's the majority. It's about 80% of what we're watching at the minute are looking for this. Free kicks, penalties, constantly. That probably tells, get into that 18-yard box as quick as you can and just hand the ball off. And somebody will kick you and they'll give it. Because they will. If there's any kind of kick that isn't towards the ball or a push or a shove or whatever, they all step in and they'll give a penalty. It's gone, mate. The game is gone. As far as I'm aware, as far as I'm concerned, it's changing rapidly. And in 5 years' time, we'll probably look back at this and go, "Well, we said it then." It's gonna become like the game stopped every few minutes. That's what it's coming to, because it means so much to the money men. These points mean so much to them that's what the game is becoming, mate.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, we're coming up to the end of the show. Newcastle play Fulham this weekend. Liverpool against Manchester United, of course, live on Sky on Sunday. Predictions, the Melly. I'm going to go for a Newcastle win by the two goals to one. I think Fulham will score, but I think Newcastle have got more than enough to beat Fulham at home. Home form's been good this season, and I think that Newcastle will bounce back from 3 defeats to record a 2-1 win. I'm going to go for a Manchester United win as well. I think Manchester United will shock the critics at the weekend. I think Liverpool have got a tendency to go in with that little bit of overconfidence that probably stems from the manager. And I'm going to go for a Manchester United 3-1 win at the weekend.
Jesus, I hope you're right. Like, but I think I'm thinking realistically, the best we can both hope for is a draw, because Fulham's obviously hit a bit of form. They hammered West Ham through the week 5-0. So they're playing football at the minute. They're fresh. And Newcastle isn't. So I don't know. It could be a stalemate, that one for me. Like I say, best case scenario is stalemate because they've hit a bit of form and they are playing Fulham at the minute. So look, I'll go for nails each just so to not upset the apple cart.
And what about Manchester United?
But Man United, I just cannot see them getting anything, mate. To be honest with you, I think they'll be overpowered. Liverpool again, you know, like they're sitting rosy in the league there. They've hit a little bit of form themselves. They're winning. United's losing, but like you say, it's typical of Manchester United to probably go and get a result. And I would love to think that they did, but I just realistically cannot see it. And I just hope it's not stupid. I hope it's just 2-0 or something, mate. But we'll see. We'll see.
Melly, as always, great to have you on. Talking Turf is where you can find Melly on YouTube. He's building his channel, so please go and subscribe to it. I've agreed to do a show which you'll be able to catch on there now with a Sunderland fan. So get yourself over there, go and watch it. There is content for everybody. But for now, Melly, good luck, mate, and speak to you soon. Take care.
Thanks, Steve. Take care, mate. All the best, Steve.